Some objects seem ordinary, part of our everyday lives. We walk by them, sit on them, barely even think about them. But sometimes, it's the most familiar things that are hiding the darkest secrets. Welcome to ID-5A9, otherwise known as the whispering seat. It may look like a harmless toilet seat, but once you hear it, your life will never be the same. Most who encounter it wish they'd never heard it at all. It all began with a college sophomore named Tyler, a late-night study session, and a moment of relief that turned into pure horror. Tyler was just another college kid. He stayed up late, cramming for tests, and barely getting any sleep. That night, he had been poring over notes, eyes heavy, head pounding. Finally, after hours, he decided to take a break. Half asleep, Tyler stumbled to his bathroom, intending to clear his head and get a drink of water. He sat down, the usual hum of the late-night quiet around him. He wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary until he heard it. At first, it was just a faint noise, so quiet he almost ignored it. A soft, whispery sound, like a distant breeze in a silent room. Tyler shrugged it off. Maybe it was just the pipes, he thought. Or maybe he was so tired he was imagining it. But then, it happened again. This time it was clearer, almost like a voice. Tyler froze, feeling his skin crawl as he heard it again. A soft voice, low and raspy, calling his name. His mind raced. No one else was home. He was completely alone. And yet, there it was, unmistakable now. A whisper calling his name, echoing softly from beneath him. The sound sent chills down his spine. He looked around, hoping to find some logical explanation, but there was no one else, just him and the voice. Tyler's journal. I swear I heard something. It was saying my name, but it was impossible. I was alone. Tyler thought he was losing his mind racing with exhaustion. He laughed nervously, trying to convince himself it was just his imagination. But the voice, it didn't stop. It grew louder, inching into his thoughts, saying his name over and over, like a chant. He couldn't tell if it was real or a trick of his mind, but it felt so real, like someone was right there, whispering in his ear. Tyler left the bathroom that night, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. The sound haunted him, lingering in his mind as he lay in bed, keeping him awake. He closed his eyes, but each time he began to drift off. The whisper would echo in his head, calling him back to the bathroom, calling him back to that seat. Over the next few days, Tyler became consumed by that voice. He tried to brush it off as sleep deprivation, stress, anything rational, but deep down, he knew something was wrong. Every time he entered the bathroom, he could almost feel the voice waiting for him, like it was lying in wait, just out of reach, ready to whisper his name again. At first, he resisted the urge to go back, convincing himself it was a one-time thing, just a figment of his tired imagination. But the whispers, they had left a mark on him. Every night, he'd find himself lying awake, unable to shake the feeling that someone, was calling him. And each time, it felt like the voice was growing stronger, like it was feeding off his fear. It wasn't long before Tyler couldn't resist. He felt drawn to the bathroom, almost as if some unseen force was guiding him back. He started going in at random times, standing in front of the seat, waiting, hoping to hear nothing, but terrified he might hear that whisper again. Hours turned into days, and Tyler's behavior became more erratic. Friends noticed he looked exhausted, as if he hadn't slept in days. He grew distant, distracted, his mind always somewhere else, somewhere dark. His roommates would find him standing in the bathroom at odd hours, staring at the toilet seat, his face pale, his eyes hollow. Tyler's journal. It's in my head. I can't get rid of it. I hear it even when I'm not there. One night, his roommates found him standing in the bathroom, muttering to himself, staring at the closed lid. When they asked him what he was doing, he just shook his head, mumbling about the whispers. His friends laughed it off, joking that he needed more sleep. But for Tyler, sleep was no longer a refuge. Each time he closed his eyes, the voice would return, louder, clearer, until he couldn't tell if it was real or just a nightmare. Tyler's story wasn't the first, nor would it be the last. Over the years, dozens of similar accounts emerged, each with chillingly familiar details. All involved a single, ordinary-looking toilet seat, and a voice that whispered secrets, fears, and sometimes even darker things. At first I thought it was a joke, a voice calling me from the toilet, but then it started saying things only I would know. It whispered my secrets, things I never told anyone. I tried ignoring it, but it kept getting louder, more demanding. I thought it was just in my head, but each time I walked by the bathroom, it was like I could hear it, calling, urging me to come back. Witnesses described feeling strangely drawn to the seat, as if the voice had some invisible hold over them. Some said they began to hear the whispers outside the bathroom, soft voices that echoed through their homes, calling their names, repeating things they'd never shared aloud. And with each encounter, the voice grew bolder, darker, revealing secrets no one should know. For some, it was more than just a whisper. They described a presence, a weight in the air, something that loomed around them, watching, waiting. They felt like they were being pulled into something far beyond their understanding, a world where shadows whispered secrets and objects harbored souls. Others claimed the voice was almost friendly at first, just a soft murmur, like a familiar acquaintance calling out to them. But as time went on, it changed, the tone darker, almost angry, like it resented being ignored. Some said it would taunt them, laughing in a low, sinister voice, repeating their deepest fears back to them, reminding them of things they'd rather forget. Encounters with ID-5A9 don't come without consequences. Those who've heard the whispers describe a series of disturbing symptoms that only worsen over time. What starts as a faint headache grows into something far more sinister, leaving a mark on the mind that's hard to erase. Here's what happens to those who hear ID-5A9: persistent headaches, especially when alone, as if someone is pressing down on their skull, distorted hearing, particularly whispers, echoing through empty rooms, an overwhelming fear of mirrors, bathrooms, and reflective surfaces, recurring nightmares of voices calling their name, in voices both familiar and strange, an unshakable sense of paranoia, the feeling of being watched, even when they know they're alone. Some even reported hallucinations, seeing faint shadows moving in the corner of their eye, feeling a chill on the back of their neck, like someone was standing behind them. For many, these symptoms escalated until they could no longer distinguish between reality and nightmare, until they felt trapped in a waking horror they couldn't escape. One witness described it as feeling like they were haunted by an invisible ghost, something that clung to their very soul. No matter where they went, the presence was always there, whispering, watching, lurking just out of reach. Many theories surround ID-5A9, yet no one has ever fully explained its origin. Some believe it's a cursed object, bound to whoever sits upon it. Others suggest it's a form of auditory hallucination, a psychological parasite, feeding off those who listen. One theory suggests that ID-5A9 is a remnant of some dark ritual, an object imbued with a presence that lingers, waiting for someone to sit and listen. Another proposes that the whispers are the echoes of those who have come before, trapped within the object, forever trying to warn the next victim of what lies within. Some say it was created as part of a ritual, bound to trap anyone foolish enough to listen. Whatever the origin, those who encounter it agree, once you hear it, there's no escaping its whispers. In his final days, Tyler's obsession with ID-5A9 consumed him. He became convinced the voice was real, that it knew him, knew everything about him. Tyler's last entry: it knows everything. I can't turn it off. I can't escape. On his final night, Tyler locked himself in the bathroom, determined to confront whatever lurked within. He was found hours later, staring blankly at the seat, his mind lost to the whispers he could no longer silence. If you think you've heard ID-5A9, Don't go back. Avoid mirrors. Avoid the silence. Some say the more you listen, the more it takes control, until there's nothing left but the whispers. Warning: exposure to ID-5A9 may cause lingering psychological effects. Viewer discretion is advised. Those who've heard it say the voice never truly leaves. It stays with you in the silence, in the shadows, always whispering, always waiting. Remember, it's just a toilet seat, right?